This week on Buried Treasures, I'm going to take a look back at another classic from Alan Miller and Activision. This time I'm looking at Robot Tank on the Atari 2600. This was made by the same crew that put together Star Master, which I talked about a few weeks ago, and there are a lot of similarities. This game is one of my all-time favorite games for Atari. It's not as simple as just shoot the bad guys. I mean, it is, but there's a little bit more to it, and let's take a look. So the story behind this is that it's the year 2019, and enemy robot tanks have invaded the Earth, and it's your job to commandeer the one tank and take them all out in the wastelands of the Earth. This game is unique in that, similar to Star Master, it gives you a first-person perspective, which was pretty unique at the time. It wasn't something you really saw hardly ever on the Atari 2600. A couple of things that always come to mind when I think of this game is the incredible visuals as well as the excellent sound. You have to remember this is an Atari 2600, and yet these are very immersive sound effects. Just listen to the sounds as you're driving along in this tank. And then the explosions whenever you hit the enemy are just awesome. Can't beat that Atari 2600 goodness. The visuals are pretty incredible too. Check out the mountains in the distance. I know this is only an Atari 2600 game and it's fairly primitive by today's standards, but one thing that's really unique here is that you do have a day to night transition. So there's a timer in the upper portion of the screen that's always running, and that's letting you know what day it is, as well as what time of the day that it is. So as you're playing, the game is transitioning from day to night, and during the daytime you can see pretty well, but at nighttime you have to rely on your radar. And that's another thing, this game has radar. That's a pretty complex system for the Atari 2600. So you have this radar, and it can tell you where the enemy tank is in relation to you. Now, you do only fight one tank at a time, so when you shoot a tank, another tank shows up. You're never in a situation where you have to fight more than one tank at once. So in that respect, it is a little bit simplistic, but there's some other unique things that pop up along the way as well. It's not just as simple as the other tank shoots you and you die, although that does happen, and the effect when you get shot is pretty neat. Similar to Star Master, you can also just end up in a situation where only part of your tank gets damaged. Star Master had different effects where your radar could get taken out or something like that. Same thing's going on here. There's a computer at the bottom, so you've got your radar, and then there's 4 different things that can get damaged throughout your mission. So if V gets taken out, then your video is going to black out periodically, and that's really annoying, especially when it's nighttime and you can barely see it as it is. C is your cannons, so when that's damaged, your cannon won't always fire when you need it to. R is your radar, and that is pretty critical, especially at nighttime, because you can't see the enemy without it. You have to have it. And T is the treads on the tracks, so if that gets damaged, then it's very difficult for your tank to move because the tracks have been taken out. It's pretty incredible when you look at what they came up with, given the limited programming confines of the Atari 2600, to just, it would just have been just as easy to just say, okay, they shoot you and then you blow up and you're done. But adding these little nuances and these little different various effects of damage gives it a little bit more a bit of believability. Probably the only bad thing about this, though, is that there's no power-ups in the game that you can collect in order to repair your tank. So once your tank gets damaged, that's it. Once your vision goes out, you're kind of just out of luck. So that's probably my one minor complaint. You might be in a situation where it's just as easy to just go ahead and commit suicide and start over. The only real power-up that the game does give you is every 12 tanks that you blow up, it gives you an extra life. So that does help out a little bit. It's not as good as, say, repairing the tank, but it's better than nothing. So another crazy thing about this game is that there's not only status effects, there is also weather effects that can happen. So as the days continue to progress and you get the day-night transitions, there's other weather effects that can pop up. There's fog, and that's just about as bad as night. You can't see where the enemy is and you have to rely on your radar. There's also rain. That really makes it difficult whenever the tanks are shooting at you because it's tough to maneuver away from the fire. There's also a snow effect. I don't know what is going on with the weather in 2019, but it's going from rain to fog to snow to night to day, all within a matter of 5 or 10 minutes, so it's pretty crazy. The snow makes it very slick. It's not so bad dodging the enemy fire when it's snowing, but it's really tough to get zeroed in on the enemy and actually get a kill shot in whenever it's snowing. It's pretty tough. This is a game that I can just play over and over again. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's just kind of the combination of everything. I love the sound effects. I love the visuals. I love the way the light looks when it's coming up through the mountains. It's kind of got this real unique look, especially at dawn or sunset. It's just kind of a cool color of orange and red. It looks sort of like the way the light looks in the background for Chopper Command with the mountains in the background there, and it's just a lot of fun to play. This game is fairly common. I don't see it in the wild very often when I'm game hunting. I don't really see it in shops that much. It's certainly not as common as, say, Combat or something like that. But it is out there, and it's really cheap. You can get it on eBay for a couple bucks right now, so I definitely recommend checking it out. If you're into Atari 2600 at all, and you loved other games like Star Master and stuff like that, and really just about anything from Activision, this is definitely one you should have in your collection. This was another Activision game that had patches, similar to Star Master and the Order of the Supreme Star Master. If you took a picture of your high score and it was high enough, you could actually get a patch that they would send you, a physical patch that you could have. Robot Tank was actually something of a clone of another Atari game called Battlezone. Battlezone first came out in the arcade in 1980 and then was later ported to the Atari 2600, I believe in 1983. The gameplay elements are similar. It's a kind of a first-person perspective tank shooter. The difference was Battlezone used wireframe graphics, whereas this used actual textures. Well, that's Robot Tank for you. I'd be curious to know if you ever actually played this game, and if this was one that you had when you were a kid, or maybe you just discovered it recently. Did you send in a picture of your high score and get the patches and all that cool stuff? I'd be curious to know what were some of your other favorite buried treasures from the Atari 2600 library. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, definitely let me know by either liking the video, or you can leave a comment below. Also, definitely subscribe if you want to check out some of my other retro gaming content. You can follow me on Twitter at fnarcade, or you can follow me on Facebook. There's a link to that on the front page of the channel. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next time on Friday Night Arcade.